Hey guys, Coach Dan here. Now I've got some real talk for you guys coming up. So like, to be honest, lately training's been a bit shit. Ever since I got sick a couple of weeks ago, just really haven't been loving too much about training. So I think generally there's potentially a lot of fatigue that's built up and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and work my way out of that because it's very unusual for me to dislike training. So yeah, it's obviously not a fun thing, but I think one of the important messages is to just stay consistent and to kind of learn what it is. So something that I'm going to do is probably reduce the amount of volume that I'm doing overall. So how many sets I'm doing per week, I'm going to bring down to a little bit of a lower level. See if that can't help to kind of dissipate some fatigue. So, you know, whether it take away 20% of the time, and as long as my performance doesn't go down too much, that's potentially a really good thing. Potentially I'm doing more than's required or more than I should be, and therefore I'm getting, you know, build up fatigue, like a dislike for training and all that kind of stuff. But again, we stay consistent, we learn as we go. So reduction in volume is going to be my first port of call. So take away about 20% of volume per muscle group. For some muscle groups, should I say, not all of them, because not all of them are particularly high, but take away about 20% of volume in some circumstances, and then keep the intensity, keep trying really hard, and then see if that has a factor. So yeah, it's not, oh, I'm stopping, I don't feel like it. It's, all right, let's reduce a little bit and see if that has a factor. Maybe performance will be better, and that will be awesome. So yeah, just thought I'd be real in that regard. You don't always feel super good about things, but again, if we treat it as a bit of problem-solving activity, it's like, okay, how do I solve this problem? That's kind of how I'm going about it. All right, so today, push day. We are going to the similar push day that we do on this day all the time, but yeah, reducing some volume from here and there, maybe 20%, chop it off of the different muscle groups for today, and then see if I can do that over the next couple of weeks and still maintain or improve performance, and then, you know, feel better about things. All right, we got a cool little exercise coming up, so let's head there first. Okay, so first up we have the Cambered Bar Bench Press. So the Cambered Bar is a bar with this little dint in it that can be used for a couple of different things like rows and stuff like that. I'm going to use it for a bench press. So for this, you know, we talk about the importance or the potential importance of stretch as far as muscle growth goes. This allows a bigger stretch through the chest. So if you think if this bar went straight across like a standard bar, it would stop on my chest. This little dip allows me to go that little bit deeper, get that little bit bigger stretch. So there might be some merit to this. I bought this bar and bought it to this gym. So it's not standard everywhere yet, but I see a lot of value in it. So I'm gonna have it in this program as my first pushing exercise, my heavier pushing exercise for the day. The other thing that I do is I get this bench here and I set it on a 20 kilo bumper plate. So when I do a bench press variation, there's a small arch. And if you think about it, as I arch, if I continue to press, it almost becomes like a decline press. So I'm kind of putting the bench up just a little bit to allow for that arch and to keep this a horizontal pressing movement and not a decline press. So the pressing cues are the same as a standard bench press. Everything's pretty similar. So I'll take the handle outside this little kink. Everything else is the same. Control the way down, get that deep stretch through the chest, and then drive up from there. So the technique's the same. You get a little larger range, so a little bigger stretch. Hopefully that's good for muscle growth. Again, there's some research suggesting higher range of motion is better, but even more so than that, training the muscle in a stretched or lengthened position is better, and this gets us to a more stretched position. If your mobility is not huge, then maybe you don't even need this cambered bar, but for me it's pretty good, so I like it. Weight has to come down though, so a bit of an ego hit there, but it's not about ego, it's about getting jacked. All right, let's go. Incline dumbbell bench press next. So we go from doing something pretty much on the flat, and now we increase the angle a little bit. So when we think about the muscles of the chest, or the pectoralis major, it's coming in and attaching to the front of your arm. Some of the fibers sort of, well, they all come across into your torso. Some of them come up towards your clavicle. So we call those clavicular fibers. Some of them kind of come down the center of your sternum, sternal fibers, obviously, and then some down towards your ribs and your, like the fascia of your abdominal area, and we call them costal fibers. So when training the chest, if we want to kind of train it overall, we would do things that kind of take your arm through all those different paths. Or if you have a preference, like I currently do, we're kind of leaning things more towards the upper part and the sternal part. So not doing really too much for the lower part of the chest at the moment. So when we go on the incline, our arm then kind of comes up in this direction here, focusing on the clavicular fibers. So with all that said, we get a couple of dumbbells laying by your lap. This is the first incline of this bench. Sit them up, place them on your lap, kick them right into the spot, drive up. Same technique, control the down, big stretch, drive up. So the dumbbells allow that big stretch, so coming outside the chest, big stretch. A little bit more stability required by dumbbells, but that's not necessarily count them out because of that. Okay, so what we've changed, 2 sets on the bench press only, 2 sets here, 2 sets of fly. So that used to be 3, we're changing that up a little bit. Okay, let's go set 1. Machine fly next. So first 2 movements I've done today have been what we call compound movements, so where multiple joints move at once or act at once. So you're pressing and both your shoulder joint and your elbow joint are moving. So this now becomes an isolation exercise where only one joint, essentially we're focused on moving the whole time. So now the pec is going to be the big worker here. Sometimes your bicep can contribute a bit, but we have a way to counteract that. So we've got the machine fly. We set the setting back such that we get a nice big stretch. So it's as far back as your flexibility and mobility allows, big stretch through the chest, driving your arms towards one another. Soft elbow allows for the bicep just to not stretch out and hopefully stay a little bit more chill. So there'll be nothing wrong with doing this straight, it's just that potentially this gets a little bit of tension and then you feel that a little bit more. So soft elbow is how I usually like to go about doing it. A big stretch or as far as your stretch allows, and then you're essentially driving your shoulder towards your sternum on both sides, focusing on the pec in isolation. So it's coming towards one another. So dumbbells, they're kind of going up in that direction. This is now coming towards the center. So isolation, finish off, bit of a high rep range as well here is my usual preference, but you can still do low if you like. That's just how I go about doing it. All right, let's get it. Chest done, now we move into shoulders. So on a push day, that would both include, or all include chest, shoulders and triceps. So instead of just calling it a chest day, it's actually a push day and you incorporate all of them into the same day. So for this day, my next exercise is going to be a lateral deltoid. So I've gone 3 chest exercise, a cambered bar bench press, that big range of motion bench press, dumbbell incline, and then the machine fly, 2 sets each. Now we move into a lateral deltoid exercise. This is going to be my lateral raise variation. So whatever you want to call this, incline lying cable lateral raise. So I bring a bench over to a cable machine, shove it nice and close. I've got a slight incline back here. I'll set the cable machines kind of down and to the side. So we're going to grab cross here in a second, and that kind of stretches my arm into that position. Now there'll be nothing wrong with having this higher if your preference suited that. You just kind of play around with the path of your arm and find out what feels best. So for me, I want to come for this variation down and across my body, stretch out that part of my lateral delt, and then kind of go and raise directly away from that. So that setup is somewhat important because when we go to do this exercise, we're going to essentially take our hand or take the cable and angle it directly away from the resistance. So set it up to your preferred height, play around with it as well. I'll grab one cable, grab the other cable. I've got my wrist straps here, or whatever you want to call these ones for grip. And then we've got that lateral Y-raisey kind of motion. For me is what I've been working with. So when we're thinking about the lateral deltoid muscle, or the deltoid in general, but the lateral component kind of comes down and attaches to the deltoid tuberosity on the side of your arm here, and that want to kind of come into the side of your shoulder or your acromion, and that's the kind of angle which we want to go. So there are a few different movements, like you might do dumbbells and this kind of thing. So this one's coming down and across, and we're kind of angling like that. But again, you figure out what feels effective for you and line that up. I like it on the bench here. It keeps my form really strict because it kind of just has me lane, can't shift or use any momentum. So it's very isolated, this one. All right, let's go after it, eh? Lateral raise variation. Okay, Smith machine shoulder press next. So I've done my lateral raises first, targeting the lateral part of the deltoid because that's a higher priority for me. So will that affect this? Almost certainly. But again, this is not as much of a priority, being that it's sort of, we're working more towards the anterior deltoid, the front part of the shoulder. Now that's already gotten a lot of love on all the other pressing that I've done. So I'm just capping it off here with a couple sets of the shoulder press. So as far as the Smith machine shoulder press goes, a couple of considerations is essentially the angle of the bench and your hand positioning. Now, with all that said, you just want to do that such that we're taking your arm through a path that is training the part of the shoulder that you want. So now we're thinking about the shoulder or arm coming towards the head. So like chin, side of the head, back of the head, in that kind of area there to work the anterior part of the deltoid. So when we do our lateral raises, it kind of goes behind the head. That'll make it such that it works the side part of the delt. Here, we're aiming for the head. So I've set it up such that when I go to press here, my shoulder will essentially come to the side of my head. So for me, it's a pretty narrow grip. So just outside this smooth area here, maybe just outside shoulder width, the bench is inclined. I think it's 2 notches back, and the bar is going to come down right by my face. All our other cues for pressing is the same. Control the way down, pretty much for all exercise. Control the way down, and then as I go to push, I'm thinking about the anterior deltoid, this muscle through the front of the shoulder, pulling my arm across, not just pushing the weight up. So it's not just going, yeah, I'll push this up, 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 up. That's fine, and that will get the job done. But more so to kind of make sure it is what we're trying to work, you're pulling the arm to the head with the anterior deltoid. Triceps will work here, that's cool. Maybe the top part of the chest, that's also cool. But we want to think about anterior shoulder. All right, let's get it on. Overhead cable tricep extension to finish. So this is my only isolated tricep exercise for today. As mentioned earlier, I'm going to chop off some volume, and that means on this day eliminating an exercise I do for 2 sets later on of triceps as well. So it's just going to be one exercise. So you don't always need heaps of exercise variation, especially for some muscles that are somewhat simple, like the tricep. The only real thing that is considered surrounding that is that there's 3 heads to it, and one of them passes the shoulder, which means probably is a bit harsh, but like not only should we do push downs like this, but also like I'm doing today, but up like this as well to stretch out that 3rd head that passes into the scapula. So for this one, I'm using a straight bar. You could use a V-bar, rope, whatever. We'll take it, we'll twist, we'll come up overhead like such, elbows nice and high, and then we're in that position there. So being that my arm is up, that 3rd head of the tricep that goes into the scapula also stretches out, and that probably has some merit, stretching that head out as well. So not just doing these variations, but also these. Okay, let's get this last exercise. Alright, that's a wrap on the workout, guys. A good one today. Had fun with that one. So, yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, there's potential that you are doing too much. Maybe that's the case, maybe that's not the case, but it's worth a try. Like, if you find yourself pretty miserable surrounding training and normally you love it, then there's some potential that you're just doing too much, and you might be doing more for the right reasons because you want better progress and that kind of thing, and we only have so much we can recover from, and that's what I found for myself recently is just pretty miserable training, which I normally love, and it's a really positive thing in my life, and just not having that same passion and love. So if you're a beginner and you don't want to come, usually there is a time and a place just to push through for you. That's potentially not the case for you if you're doing, coming 2 or 3 days per week, and you just don't want to come because you're not loving it. It's like you probably haven't fallen in love with it yet, but this could be applicable to people who do love training and just find they're going through a massive lull and they're just like, I fucking hate this shit and I don't want to do it type stuff. So in that kind of scenario, you like, I'm just going to try reducing the amount of work that I'm doing. So there'll be less time in the gym. There'll be, the intensity's still high, so maybe the intensity will be even better. Maybe the progress will be even better, but it's just something I'm going to experiment with. So if I can't recover, miserable, then it's time to try something different. And I'm going to try volume reduction to start off with and then see how that goes. So like an example for today is that, I maybe did alternately 6 less sets than I would normally do. So something like 22, 24, and it was more like 18, 20. So that's where we're going to start first, and then, see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Like, there's potential that I'll be worse off as far as progress, but there'll also be potential that I'll maintain or even get better. So it's just worth the experiment to kind of get my groove back, get my vibe back. But the message overall is not to stop. You keep consistent, you keep going, and we kind of learn what is it that I'm doing that's, leading to this shit stuff, Anyway, sorry to be a downer, but I think it's good to be real about that, is that, like, it's not always, high flying kind of stuff. Sometimes we have to figure out some different things and why they're going on and stuff like that, and that's kind of where I'm at now. So I'm proud of this workout though, and I'm proud I'm still coming and all that kind of stuff, but it's just a matter of getting that juice back to love it and to really enjoy it. So anyway, Debbie Downer out. So as always, guys, if you like this kind of real content and how it actually is, remember to hit the the little face up here where you click me and you subscribe. If you like this stuff, you like it that I'm honest and stuff like that, hit the other playlist over here which kind of shows you how I do all my other workouts. And remember, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan signing off.